Who cares if it's in the shot? Is it recording? Are we recording? Are you recording? Let me check. Here we go. That was a sync snap. You sync the snap. In 2016, I was studying mechanical engineering in India. I had one of those 5-octave Casio keyboards. I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know music reading was a thing. And I composed a little in FL Studio. I primarily played Hindi film music and some Hans Zimmer. During that time, my roommate introduced me to Western classical music. People knew very little about it. And I got into it with so much passion because it set me apart from liking the mainstream genres of the community at that time. I had supportive friends, so those bastards convinced me that it was okay to quit engineering and pursue this dream. Now, one thing you need to know about India of 2016 is that quitting engineering is the highest form of crime. It goes tax fraud, double homicide, disrespecting your elders, and quitting engineering. So I moved to a different city to learn classical piano and compose a little on the side. And the friends that I made over there were also not super into classical music, Western classical music, and they were mostly in prog rock, heavy metal, indie singer-songwriter bands. So my passion for Western classical music solidified even more. After a year of prep, I got into a university in Canada, and instead of being excited about being with people who also shared the passion of Western classical music, I felt the emptiness of not being able to stand out immediately because these people were playing their instruments since they were 5-6 years old, polishing their musicianship, and there was no way for me to stand out through traditional means. The compositions I came up with during that time were a bit derivative and quite a bit amateurish. 2 years into my degree, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to combine Indian classical music with my Western classical training? That's gotta set me apart. The only issue was that I did not know anything about Indian classical music, so I decided to learn it from a book in Canada, Indian classical music. Yeah, I know. I wrote some pieces and I was honestly stoked about the fusion because I really liked how they were turning out, and there was nothing left for me to do except marvel at my genius of this fusion. I just came up with it all on my own. It was blinding. It was really bad, guys. And a couple weeks after that, I found out that there is a composer in States who has been doing this since last 2 decades. Then I found out about someone who was in Canada was doing that for a long time, and then a few in Europe, and then plenty more in India, and the fusion was just completely repulsive to me. 3 years after that, I thought I should go even narrower in my pursuit so that I can be first at something. So I decided to fuse Gujarati traditional music. Gujarat is the state of India where I'm from, and we have our own musical genre, and Gujarati traditional music with my Western classical training. And I decided to be the first one to produce a Gujarati orchestral show. And a year in, I was composing the big work that would be the heart of the show. And I found out that someone else did it, and that too at a massive scale. And I, again, completely lost my motivation to keep going. The utmost absurdity of the decision making in this entire process is quite apparent when I'm presenting information this way, when I am jumping to revelations along the way. But when you're living real life, it's quite common to be completely oblivious to such psychological traits. It took me 10 years and multiple reiterations of the same core issue in different instances to be like, what the fuck is that? When you make these big decisions, like selecting a project, from a point of wanting to be unique, you are likely to run into issues like losing inspiration midway, not being fulfilled with the result, regardless of the quality, not looking forward to composing, and the biggest one is getting your creative identity tossed out the window in an instance. I don't know about your tolerance of self-sabotage, but I had hit mine. I needed to do something about it, because if I didn't do anything about it, it meant that I will not be writing the music that I truly want to write. The actual thought process of this was very messy, but I'm presenting you with a more refined version of this. After some reflection, I realized that I was operating under an internalized rule, and the rule was I have a need to be unique. Now, there's nothing inaccurate about this claim, but it is not deep enough. It doesn't have enough meat on it that we can actually do anything with it. Like, we cannot examine, examine, examine. We cannot examine what's going on until we go deeper with this rule. Basically, the claim needs to be testable and falsifiable. And the way you can go deeper is by simply asking why. So I asked myself why, and I went a bit deeper, and what I came up with was if I'm first, I don't have to compare. More precisely, uniqueness is the permission to exist without mastery and comparison. Now, you can go deeper and deeper by asking why, but as someone who has done that, you might want to bring a tracker down there with you. So in case you end up at the depths of nihilism, your friends can get down there and get you out. For our purposes, we'll go just deep enough so that the claim is not vague and so that it's testable and falsifiable. There's nothing wrong with going deeper. It's just that we don't have time for that. Just do that in your own time. We got a piece to compose. After further reflection on this rule, I realized that this rule was not sound. I was using differentiation as a substitute for craft mastery. Being unique meant I didn't have to measure myself against any standard. I am creating a category of my own, so I don't actually have to compare with anyone else. And however emotional and logical this may seem, it was still subconsciously dictating all my decision making at the project selection level and subsequently everything that followed. Finally, I realized that the reason why this rule is so detrimental is because it prompts me to make decisions from an anchor which is unstable and which is outside my control. Once we recognize, name, and understand the internalized rule, we have two options. You can either release it or consciously choose it. In this case, I wanted to get rid of it. And sometimes, by just being conscious that there is a rule, it helps a lot in getting rid of it. But most of the times, such psychological rules are quite stubborn, and you need to take concrete actions to get rid of them. This is what I did about it. First, I needed to give myself two permissions while being indifferent to the uniqueness of the work. The first permission was permission for my work to exist, regardless of whether I perceive it as masterful or not. And the second one was permission for my work to be compared. After I find a way to give myself permissions for both of those things, I needed to make sure that whenever I choose a project next, I'm choosing from a place of a stable anchor, preferably internal for me, and not dictated by ever-changing external circumstances. So I'm choosing from a place of expression and not by the want of being unique. By expression, I mean choosing projects that if I'm in the middle of them and if I think that they are no longer as original as they were when I started, or even if they're not unique or someone else beat me to it, I would still keep on going. If you do feel like you are losing motivation because the work is no longer unique, then the anchor is not stable and it resides outside. Now, in general, there could be many external anchors that mask themselves as internal and vice versa, but it's not about internal versus external anchors, it's about stable versus unstable anchors. You won't know what is happening underneath until you ask why. When you do choose projects that have a stable anchor, you are far more engaged in the work itself. You feel a sense of completion regardless of the quality of the work. And you won't have to deal with a creative identity crisis when you are in the thick of writing that piece. For me, now that I no longer care whether my music is unique or not, somehow it has been more unique. And even if it weren't, it wouldn't matter. Because I am just simply writing music that I need to write and not from a place of uniqueness. life is hilarious that way. If you're a composer and if this resonated with you, if you're trying to navigate something similar, I work with a handful of composers on exactly this. There's a link in my description that you can book a call with me. Check it out.
Welcome to my YouTube channel.